They called me into the conference room just after lunch. I thought it was a status update or maybe a shift in the project timeline. Instead, the new manager, like some fast-talking guy from corporate who'd been there maybe 6 months, told me they were moving in a different direction. That was it. No warning, no explanation, just a box for my things and a reminder that HR would be in touch. 17 years. Gone in 3 sentences. I didn't argue. Didn't ask why, just nodded, stood up and walked out. People kept their eyes on their screens. No one said a word. As I packed up, the young manager even had the nerve to say, "Thanks for your service." Said nothing. But as I walked through those glass doors for the last time, I wasn't broken. I was focused. Because they didn't know what I still had. I started at the company when I was 24. Back then, it was just a small tech operation with a rented office and a 10-person team. I was brought on as a temp, managing equipment logs and data entry. Nothing glamorous, but I showed up early, stayed late, and took every task seriously. Over time, I learned the systems better than most of the managers. When things broke, I fixed them. When someone didn't know how to run a report, I walked them through it, quietly, without ego. I trained half the people who now call themselves senior staff, covered shifts when no one else would, picked up the slack when projects were rushed. I never asked for recognition, never needed it. I just took pride in doing things right. When we expanded into 2 floors, I was the one who built out the transition plan. When we onboarded new software, I stayed up for nights learning the back end so no one else had to. My title changed a few times, but my role stayed the same, the one they counted on when things got messy, and that was fine with me. I didn't chase promotions. I believed loyalty mattered. I believed putting in the time earned you something back. Then the buyout happened. Corporate swept in with their consultants and restructuring plans. New faces filled old seats. The culture changed. The new boss never once asked me what I did. He just saw a salary line and decided to cut it. The shift didn't happen overnight, but it felt that way. After the acquisition, they brought in a new VP of operations, Brandon Keller. Early 30s, sharp suits. A degree from somewhere expensive. No background in what we actually did. In his first town hall, he called our systems clunky and said, "We'd outgrown legacy mindsets." I remember glancing around the room. The older guys, the ones who built those systems, looked like they'd been slapped. Brandon cut budgets in his first 2 weeks, canceled overtime, outsourced IT support to a third-party vendor that barely answered the phone. He didn't ask questions, didn't take feedback. He had a plan, and none of us were in it. Within a month, 3 long-timers from my team were pushed out. Packages handed over quietly, no thank you lunches, no handshakes. Just security badges deactivated and access revoked. He brought in consultants, the kids barely out of college who talked big, but didn't know the difference between backup and disaster recovery. They nodded a lot and repeated buzzwords like agile and efficiency. Brandon stopped by my desk once, looked over my setup and said, "This still works?" I nodded. "You're kind of old school," he added with a smirk. I smiled. Politely, said nothing. I've been called worse. He didn't know the systems I'd built, the patches I'd put in place to keep things running, the warnings I'd ignored for the sake of progress. He thought I was outdated. He didn't realize I was the last thing holding it all together. It happened on a Thursday. I was halfway through writing documentation for a vendor handoff when Brandon's assistant popped by. "Can you step into conference room B for a minute?" No warning. No agenda. Inside, HR was already waiting. Brandon didn't even show up. "We're restructuring," the rep said, reading from a printout. "Your position has been eliminated effective immediately. 17 years. No thank you. No handshake. Just a folder, a generic apology, and a forced smile. I asked one question. "Is this performance-related?" She blinked. "No, purely structural." I nodded. Closed the folder, walked back to my desk. People kept typing, pretending not to notice. A few stole glances when they thought I wasn't looking. I packed slowly. I didn't speak. Brandon appeared at the door as I zipped my laptop bag. "Best of luck," he said, like he meant it. I looked him in the eye. "Thanks." Then I walked out, calm, straight-backed, but in my chest something was already shifting. Not grief, not rage, just resolve. They thought I was just another mid-level employee with a long title and outdated skills. What they didn't realize was that most of what kept the company running had my fingerprints on it. I had built out the core infrastructure, everything from back-end logic to compliance archiving. When new software was brought in, I was the one who created compatibility bridges. When audits came around, I made sure everything lined up. Over the years, I kept backups, not for leverage, for safety. I had offline copies of system logs, redundant storage of financial compliance reports, email chains that outlined every decision I'd ever disagreed with, and what I did to fix them anyway. I had admin access. Most of them didn't even know existed. Legacy logins, root permissions. I never abused it, never even flaunted it, but I remembered everything. Like the time Brandon's consultant team bypassed a firewall update. I logged it. Or when they forced a vendor switch mid-quarter without compliance clearance. I flagged it and kept the memo. No one listened. And that's fine, because I wasn't planning on revenge, but I wasn't planning on forgetting either. After I walked out, I went home, opened my personal hard drive, and reviewed everything. Clean, time-stamped, traceable. They'd taken my job. But I still held the keys to the kingdom. And if they wanted to pretend I never existed, I could make sure they remembered exactly who I was. The first thing I did was call Eric. We'd worked together 10 years earlier, back when the company still felt like a team. Now he was in corporate legal, handling compliance reviews and whistleblower filings. He didn't ask why I called. He just said, "What do you have?" I told him everything, slowly, carefully. I wasn't out to burn the place down. I wanted the truth exposed, the kind no one could spin. I forwarded him copies of the flagged transactions, system inconsistencies, and ignored audit warnings. The compliance reports I filed internally but were buried or dismissed by new management. He told me what to keep, what to redact, and how to make sure every file would hold up under scrutiny. Then I made another call, anonymously this time. Due to internal ethics, logged a formal complaint, no emotion, just facts. Detailed, time-stamped, and impossible to ignore. I documented every action they took that violated policy, every corner cut. Every risk taken that could impact investors, clients, or data integrity. Then I backed up those documents again, uploaded them to secure cloud storage, and sent copies to a private legal account under Eric's name. I didn't threaten, didn't reach out to Brandon. Let them think I was gone and licking my wounds, but I wasn't licking anything. I was building something, a trail, a pattern, a case. They fired me like I was a liability. Now I was becoming a witness. The cracks showed up within 2 weeks. The system I'd maintained, the one Brandon called ancient, started failing. Automated reports stopped generating. Vendor data feeds came in scrambled. Ticketing software glitched during peak hours. Nobody knew why. I did. They'd removed me without documenting a single handoff. No transition, no knowledge transfer. Just replaced me with people who didn't understand what they'd inherited. Brandon blamed the vendor blamed IT. IT blamed legacy code. But behind closed doors, panic was setting in. Clients were missing deadlines. Sales teams couldn't access real-time analytics. And the system logs, which I had mirrored and time-stamped, started showing patterns of misuse. Then the board got wind of it. I heard from Eric that an emergency meeting was called. Something about operational instability and compliance exposure. Someone had found the flagged audit warnings I'd reported and buried in their inbox. The emails I'd submitted. Now the board had questions. Why weren't these risks disclosed? Why had they removed key personnel without process? Why were untrained consultants handling sensitive workflows? Brandon fumbled his answers. Eric sent me a short message. They're listening now. I didn't gloat, didn't post online. Just watched from the sidelines as the silence I'd left behind turned into a storm. They erased me without thinking twice. Now they were scrambling to fix holes they didn't understand, holes I'd patched for years, and I hadn't even touched. My real leverage yet. The call came on a Monday. It wasn't Brandon. He wouldn't have the humility. It was someone from HR, someone I didn't recognize, asking if I'd be open to consulting support. The systems were in trouble, they admitted. They needed help stabilizing key processes. No mention of my firing. No apology. I listened, then said, "Only under contract, hourly rate, my terms." They agreed without pushing back. When I returned, I didn't use my old badge. They issued me a guest pass, temporary, just like I wanted. I wasn't there to rejoin. I was there to clean up the mess, quietly, professionally. I worked 3 days, a week, logged my hours, did only what was required. No overtime, no firefighting. And when Brandon walked past me in the hallway, he didn't make eye contact. That was fine by me. I wasn't back. I was billing.